Hi, my name is Emma Choi, and this is my biofuel project for Bio 111. My biofuel of choice is ethanol. First off, what is ethanol? Ethanol is one of the most commonly used and widespread biofuels in the world. It is a renewable fuel source made from corn and other plant materials, and this is collectively known as biomass. A basic overview to what ethanol is. Ethanol is a part of the alcohol family that is used as a blending agent with gasoline to form a usable energy source. It's used to increase octane and reduce carbon monoxide as well as other polluting emissions. And 98% of gasoline sold in the US today contains ethanol to help oxygenate the fuel and help reduce air pollution. But how is ethanol cultivated? Production in general differs based on the type of feedstock or the type of crop grown and used to produce ethanol. So there are two types of productions based on what kind of feedstock is being used. These are the two production methods. There's the starch sugar-based production and the cellulosic production method. The starch sugar-based is the most ethanol production within the US is starch sugar-based. Ethanol is transformed through two different processes, dry milling and wet milling, where dry milling is grinding corn into flour and fermenting it, while wet milling separates starches, proteins, and fiber from corn prior to the formation of products such as ethanol. Then we have cellulosic production, which uses feedstocks of wood, grass, and crop residues, and it is a more involved process. This filters down into two ways, either biochemically or thermochemically. Biochemical way requires a pretreatment to release hemulose sugars, followed by hydrolysis to break cellulose into sugars, whereas then fermented, or thermochemically, which adds heat and other chemicals to produce a chemical called syngas, which is then added to a mixture with a catalyst to help produce ethanol. Developmental status of ethanol. Ethanol is a widely available and commonly produced biofuel. It has increased within the United States as a whole over time, as can be seen most commonly. Most of the ethanol production plants are concentrated within the Midwest, as can be seen in the image, but most consumption of ethanol was contained within the East Coast and the West Coast. The increase in production can be correlated to the fuel blending requirements of the Renewable Fuel Standard Program, which has helped project the need for ethanol. The environmental impact, or how it affects the carbon footprint. The use of corn ethanol was found to have a significant impact on decreasing the carbon footprint and emissions of greenhouse gases. The carbon intensity of today's ethanol is around 46% lower than gasoline, which makes it better for our environment as a whole. The CO2 released by a vehicle when ethanol is burned off is offset by the CO2 captured when the feedstock crops are grown to produce this product, so it's very cyclical in nature. The economic impact of ethanol, since it is a renewable fuel, the advantages tend to outweigh the bad. In 2021 alone, 73,000 direct jobs across the United States were created, as well as $52.1 billion worth of gross domestic product and $28.7 billion in household income. This helps the economy by increasing energy independence, reducing vehicle emissions, and lowering consumer prices. Ethanol is already being widely discussed due to its advantages, but more specifically in the online generation and addressing upcoming improvements through the use of social media, many advocacy groups have spread the word using the internet. One example of this is the American Coalition for Ethanol. It has a whole sanctioned website full of updated information for consumers and current events happening within the industry so that people stay well informed. Moving into the future, should we still use ethanol in society? My answer is yes. Through this research and analysis of all this data, my personal opinion would support the use of ethanol within our world today. With some proper regulations, the advantages of ethanol, like lower emissions and the stability of jobs, ethanol has proven to be a benefit to society. My one suggestion would be to find a way to keep producing ethanol, since gasoline is a resource that we're in danger of running out of, and that could be a problem for the future. So what does that mean we need to do now? My ideal plan of action, if funding were not a main issue, would be to find a way to create a blended biofuel that allows vehicles to run on a higher percentage of ethanol without being too expensive for the general public. This would ultimately help preserve our gasoline and other non-renewable fossil fuels and help create a cheap and environmentally friendly way that we can fuel our society. Here are my citations, and that's it. Thank you.